So when you were a kid, what were your sporting interests?
Football, until I became a 14-year-old. I decided to join a tennis club, and I started playing a lot of tennis in the summertime.
Because?
There's a lot of girls there. It was great. I mean, it was, in those days, you played a winter sport and a summer sport. And so winter was football and tennis in the summer.
So you obviously were a gifted sports person?
Yeah, without bragging, yes, I was. I was in a very good group of people. We had a bunch of friends at school who have all done extremely well in their various cycles. One was a professional swimming coach. Another one, a goalkeeper in the team, played rugby for England as a second row forward. Very, very, very capable player.
Who was that?
Eric Ban, his name. He turned out for an international player with England at rugby, believe it or not. Very, very good player. He did play for England a few times. And that's one of the goals that we scored in one of the local games. Our school was probably, City Leicester Boys Grammar School was probably the school that you went to if you wanted to play football. You know, schools in those days were either rugby or football, grammar schools anyway. And I went to City Boys because it had a strong tradition in football.
So how did the football career progress as a teenager?
Back then, you started getting spotted when you were playing at primary school, in your last year at primary school. And Leicester Boys had a very, very good team. As we went into secondary school, the clubs around the area got attracted to watching the schools that had the reputation that we had. And I also joined a local youth club that was strong in football. So most of my weekends were spent Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning playing football. And you know, you can have too much of a good thing, but the reality was I used to love it. Dad used to come and watch me everywhere I went. And it progressed from that to getting into the Leicester Boys team. We had a particularly strong team at 14, under 15 level. That's the newspaper, it's Leicester Mercury, that highlighted what they considered to be the strength of the Leicester Boys team. Strong half-back line.
And you're in there?
That's me. Had hair in those days. We got to the 6th round of the English Schools Trophy and met our come-uppance at Anfield against Liverpool boys, who went on to win it. But that was the pathway that got me spotted. As I say, at that time, Leicester City had invited me to go and train on Tuesday and Thursday nights after school down at the ground at Filbert Street then. So you started rubbing shoulders with people who you worshipped.
Like?
You won't know them, but
well, tell me
Frank McClintock, who became
I remember
captain
him.
of Arsenal, and I mean he was a painter decorator apprentice when I was there. He used to turn up in his white overalls and his white cap on a bike with his ladder in between his legs. But you know, he was just a terrific bloke at the time, and there were many. Howard Riley, Ian King, Tony Knapp, Graham Cross. You won't know them. Gordon Banks was there.
So you were a contemporary of Gordon Banks?
I was much younger than he was.
Yeah.
He was a professional goalkeeper. I was a little sprat.
But someone to look up to.
Of course, yeah.
Amazing.
And the people that you rub shoulders with when you start getting into those circles. Peter Shilton was coming along. He was the year behind me. David Nish, who was a Leicester boy, he was the captain of Derby County. Played for England. He and I played together in the same team. They were the local boys who probably you might remember in terms of their fame.
So how much of a force were Leicester City in those days?
They had a good team.
First division?
Yeah, they had a good team. And as I say, they had a half-back line, McClintock, Ian King and Colin Appleton, who you just revered. They were brilliant. Absolutely brilliant to watch.
Colin Appleton, I knew when he was the manager of Exeter.
Yeah, that's right, he did. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So there we go, we got that in common.
Amazing.
Fantastic. And what great to have a front row seat for that kind of sporting activity.
It was my dream to be a professional footballer. I nearly made it. Wisdom of my father and a very, very serious discussion after I'd signed amateur terms with Arsenal. Dad felt it was best that I finish my education, and they were very amenable to that. They didn't try and pull me out of school and chuck me into the system. As in those days, you, as an apprentice player, you basically finished training at 12 o'clock, and your day was, that was it. So whereas most of the first teamers would have gone to the pub, or I'm not sure where they might have gone, but they didn't do much else. Younger players had no career guidance of any description, and Dad didn't like that idea very much. And so he said, look, it's a hell of a risk. If you get injured, it may not work out. So I stayed at school. They signed me on as a registered player for 2 seasons, and I trained down there pre-season. Every school holiday, Easter, summer, I was down in London, staying just around the corner from Highbury. And whenever I could, they picked me, because the school had first pick, because I was school captain. But when an opportunity arose, an Arsenal youth team had a game, they got me on a train to London, and I played, and then came home. And that was fabulous. And I stayed the weekends down there, of course. Watched the first team in the afternoon, if you could. So it was a magic time, and I didn't. I guess it's fair to say that the Arsenal team at the time I was there, the entire first 15 were international players.
So names?
Bob Wilson, Terry Neal, Laurie Brown, Joe Baker, George Eastham, Alan Skirton.
But they were the greats of the time.
They were the prima donnas of the club. Billy Wright left not long after I went, and George Graham took over. And he had a very formidable, unattractive team. Big blokes, small pitch at Highbury.
Did you say unattractive?
Yes, unattractive.
Because they were
never attractive.
Yeah.
High balls all the time. And very, very, very aggressive.
Yeah. But it probably paid off, I guess.
Yeah, it did. He was a good manager for a while. Billy Wright wasn't. England's most capped player before Shilton. But he wasn't a great manager.
Doesn't always go hand in hand, does it?
I don't think it had a lot.
So tell me how the switch from Leicester to Arsenal came about. Because there was a bit of controversy there.
Yes, I was selected as a reserve for the final trial for the England team. That was the trial game, North versus South. I was the only one from Leicester that went, and
this was at what age group?
At Shrewsbury, under 15, and we had to go to Shrewsbury, and I was a travelling reserve, so I didn't expect to play, but I did. And the first half of the game, my team, our side, got 5 goals, 3 of which were scored by John Radford, who you may or may not remember. He was signed professional straight after the game. At half time, because I was on the same team as him, at half time they changed us round. I had to play against him. And the second half of the game was 0-0. He didn't get a kick. I played him out of the game without bragging.
So you were
as a result of that, I'd hoped that I might get in the England team. I didn't. A lad from Manchester called Frank Barlow told me in the dressing room that he'd been made captain of the team. He was in my position, centre half. So I didn't get picked, but there were a lot of scouts there, and one of them was the guy from Arsenal. And at the end of the game, he came up to my dad and said, "Can we have a word?" And he made an appointment, and came to the house, and that's when I was asked to sign for Arsenal as an amateur player. Still staying at school, but they wanted to retain me.
Mm.
So that was a huge thrill.
Mm.
Of course, the news got out, and as I say, the Leicester Mercury got hold of it, and Leicester Boys been pillaged by a club that shouldn't have done this. And that's the letter from Leicester City Football Club asking why I'd gone and put my signature to Arsenal when they were still interested in me. My hometown. I had no choice. I trained at Leicester for 2 years. It was a pretty cruddy old stadium, but it was home, and that's where I learnt my football, in Leicester. So there was a degree of guilt, but the attraction of walking into the Marble Hall at Highbury and your eyes just go like this it was amazing. So that's what I did, and disappointed not getting an England cap, but got a relationship with Arsenal instead.
Yeah,
more than made up for it.
So how did that pan out in the end?
I had 2 years there, as I say. All my school holidays I went down there, quite a few weekends. Went on tour in Europe with them for the youth team. I think it would be fair to say that they gave me a damn good go at making the grade. And at the end of 2 seasons, I was approached and they said to me, "We've loved having you, but we're not going to sign you as a professional." And that basically meant I wasn't quite good enough. And it was done very, very professionally. I admire the club so much because they were a genuine, and still are, a genuine club. They have thousands of kids go through their hands. And they decided that they didn't need a player like me in that position, and therefore we'll let you go. I could have gone back and seen Leicester City. I could have gone to Nottingham Forest. I could have gone to Derby County, which David Nish did after his Leicester career. But as I say, in discussion with Dad, we agreed that perhaps finishing school and going to college and then playing football. So that's what I did. We parted good friends. As I say, I still have the greatest respect for that club because they gave me a chance.
Yeah. Must have been gutting at the time, though.
Yeah, it was. Utterly gutting. But you have to come to terms with it. I look at what the guys I played with have done, and they've had good careers. Peter Shilton played for England more than anybody else, 100 and something times. Travelled the world. David Nish has had a lot of games with them. And yes, you can say, I'm disappointed. I was profoundly disappointed. But you have to get on with life. And that year I went on an outward bound course, for a month, which my father thought I was nuts, but the reality was it changed my life in another direction.
Set off in a different way. Yeah. Do you think if you got terms with Arsenal, your father would have seen things differently?
Yes, probably. As I would have, probably.
So you would have thrown a lot in with them.
Pre-season, we trained with everybody was together. So you could have been in a five-a-side match with 4 international players, and you're the little sprat, that's trying to do bust his lungs to show them that you've got what it takes.
Yeah.
And that was the best part about it. You learnt so much so quickly. And yes, if I'd have been offered professional terms, it would have been very, very, very hard for me to say no. But there's no good going down that road, is it?
Oh, no, it's not. But it's still, when you look at the careers of people you played alongside, every time they turn up on TV again, there must be a bit of you going, oh.
Yeah. Well, you've got to look at that book and see John Radford in there. I flatted with him quite a lot. And, he's in there a lot. And that was the team that won the double.
So tell me, you used to play in front of some big crowds, though, didn't you?
We had nearly 10,000 at Anfield. And story of my life. Well, that's the Leicester boys team that played at Anfield up there. My famous moment. You know, my dad had driven up because he wasn't allowed to go on the coach, and so we got up there plenty of time. And I think before the game, quite a lot of the boys were literally sick with nerves.
So set the scene. This is playing for who against who?
This is playing Leicester boys against Liverpool boys in the English Schools Trophy 6th round. So,
at Anfield.
At Anfield, under lights. It was a big deal. We walked out and just went ah. It was a big deal, and most of the spectators had congregated at both ends of the ground behind the goal.
Yeah.
Liverpool kicked off. They belted the ball out to their winger, who apparently is a 10.5 metre man, and he just kicked the ball ahead and sprinted. And our poor fullback was left in his wake, but somehow got a toe to it before he crossed the ball corner. And they slung the corner across. I threw my left leg at the ball, hit my knee, and went past my goalkeeper, who was standing there frozen. It went past his shoulder like that. He was frozen, just absolutely rooted to the spot. Oh, the crowd roared. Dad hadn't even sat in his bloody chair. He was sort of walking. He turned round, saw my face, and thought, "Oh shit!" It was 1-0 at half time, and I cried most of the half time. I was very upset, but we had an incredibly physical first half on a huge pitch which we had never played on before at that size. I played at Nottingham and I played at Leicester, but Liverpool's pitch was huge. And they came out in the second half and they roasted us. We just ran out of steam. Our legs didn't carry us that long. So we lost 6-0 and they went on to win the English Schools Trophy.
Yeah.
They're a brilliant team.
Yeah.
I think they'd scored 37 goals and none against when they met us.
Yeah.
So we did all right.
Yeah. So your misfortune wasn't the difference between win and loss on that occasion.
Oh, no. But at half time, I was thinking it could be.
Yeah.
And it's not a nice experience. You know, the guys behind the goal, every time they got a corner, would you have your centre half goalie? It don't make you feel very good when you're 15.
But it does allow you to say you scored in front of 10,000 people.
I did.
At least you can laugh about it now.
I can now, yeah, golly.
Yeah. That must have been a heck of an experience. I mean, I've been to the
it was wonderful. And I played at Nottingham under lights, and we beat Nottingham boys in an earlier round at. And that was a strange ground because it's right next to the river. It gets very misty and foggy. And I'd played at Leicester City under lights at Filbert Street, and that was the only time in my career that Mum came to watch, and I got concussion. It was the one and only time she came, and she said, "No, go again."
As a stage, it doesn't come much bigger than Anfield, does it?
No, it's huge for us.
Yeah.
Under lights, Liverpool was astonishing. I remember the camera on the pitch. I remember looking across from where we were standing to the other side, and somebody was standing over there, and I could only see the top half of his body. The bloody curve on the picture was immense. It was immense.
And in those days, an under-15s could get a crowd of 10,000 people.
Well, it was the 6th round, and the trophy. I don't know. I don't follow it anymore. But in those days, it was a big deal. Inter-schools football was big, and a lot of the clubs were signing up players 14 and 15 years of age in those days. They've probably got scouts down in 8, 9 and 10s now. But that's what they attracted, which was fantastic for us. We'd never played in front of anything like that before.
Yeah. I mean, that must really put the willies up you, I imagine, doesn't it?
Well, as I say, a lot of players were just physically sick in the dressing room before they went out.
So how many of those 10,000 would have been your supporters? I guess not that many.
About 20 at the most.
Yeah.
Parents. Parents, the coach, the manager.
So it's a real bear pit then.
It was a horrible bear pit, yeah, it was.
Yeah, well,
but
kudos to...
You wallow in it in that stage in your life. I mean, that's what you dream about.
Yeah.
So,
Well, what an amazing thing to look back on.
Yeah, it is, and it's nice to have this. Dad kept all this for me, and his story's at the front and mine's at the back, and that's all right.
And what would you say was the highlight of that part of your life, of your football career?
I think probably the first year that I went down to Highbury for the summer for pre-season training. I just was absolutely overawed by all the things that they did that I thought I knew a bit about football, but I knew jack shit. and just playing with all these superstars, and trying to establish yourself. So it brings back a lot of very positive memories, Martin.